Both Mets and baseball fans all around the world are still on Juan Soto watch, but the Mets did sign pitcher Frankie Montas to a 2-year, $34 million contract on Sunday. So let's talk Montas and, of course, some other potential free agency moves with your favorite Mets content creator, Tyler Ward, and his friends call him Wardy. Wardy, what's going on, my man? I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Finally took a couple of days for the Thanksgiving eating to digest. I'm sure the same for you, but now we're back in the thick of things. A big week as we're just a week away from MLB winter meetings, and the Mets are not stopping making moves. Let's deep dive this one, Brandon. I'm happy to get into it.
Yeah, two things I'm tired of: Thanksgiving leftovers and Juan Soto watch. So let's talk about this Montas signing. They signed a 31-year-old to a 2-year deal worth $17 million per season. Of course, with the player opt out after the first year. So what's your thoughts and reaction to the Montas signing?
Yeah, initial reaction is this is as David Stearns of a pickup as they come. For people that know Mets president of baseball operations, David Stearns, he has an act for really trying to get the best out of pitching, especially with guys either coming off of down years or ones where maybe they didn't have the great success elsewhere, but we know we have a confidence level in our pitching lab and our ability to manipulate pitchers' arsenals, pitch shape to get the best out of them each and every year. Frankie Montas, after splitting time with the Cincinnati Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers to a sub-5 ERA this past season, what is he bringing the Mets for 2025 and beyond? Because a lot of fans are like, 17 mil average annual value, that's a lot of money. Well, listen, Frankie Montas is in the 70th percentile in average velocity there, throws right around 95 plus on the gun with his fastball, and we saw some key adjustments from his time in Cincinnati to Milwaukee throughout the past season, and we all know Stearns' long connection there in Milwaukee. Not surprised to see him pick up a former Brewer, having a lot of great intel from people in the organization. Montas really has a heavy emphasis on working that fastball when it's great and not hanging, certainly more so as a put-out pitch we saw in the second half of the season with the Milwaukee Brewers. And when facing left-handed hitters especially, we saw an uptick usage there to a degree there in the sinker. We know that splitter usage, one right, can be deadly for him in his arsenal. He's got a 4 to 5 pitch mix that can really be manipulated properly by this Mets pitching lab with Jeremy Hefner there and their new assistant coach hire from the Yankees, in which Montas knows to a degree, and Desi Druskel, or Druskel, however you pronounce his last name. So I like this pickup a lot from the Mets. This is what you can expect from them. They're not done making moves, obviously, to their rotation, but they just landed another guy that has upside with a greater ceiling than maybe what we've even seen to this point at the major league level. Can never go wrong with what David Stearns has done, and what we saw with guys in Severino Manaea this past year further proves why we should have faith in David Stearns.
Well, we talked Manaea and that contract. This deal is structured just like the deal that Manaea signed last offseason. So good move by David Stearns contractually or not?
Yeah, I like this move a lot because, again, at the end of the day, if Frankie Montas exceeds his value that we see in 2025 and finds himself looking for a nice payday, then he will likely not opt into his second year there at $17 million for 2026. So it's a beneficial move for both sides. If Montas is underwhelming, he'll probably opt into his contract, and then the Mets will figure how that works out for the 2026 season. They can dump his salary if they absolutely have to, say things really work out terribly, but if things work out greatly, similar to Sean Manaea, the Mets may find themselves even considering, throwing him, say, the qualifying offer in hopes that he returns for 2026 should he deny his player option for certain after, say, having a great and nice bounce back 2025 campaign with the Mets. In my opinion, this is a low risk, high reward. For people wondering how is it low risk at the average annual value he's at, it's simply because this money is not going to strap the Mets from making any proper moves to their rotation and other parts of their lineup whatsoever. Steve Cohen is still going to spend plenty. David Stearns is going to be strategic on really trying to hammer the numbers on short-term contracts for guys that you don't have to otherwise invest long-term in, where you can have repercussions to, say, a certain degree, and a Corbin Burns in the free agent market, among others. High upside, but also a lot of commitment long-term on those deals versus short-term here with Montas.
Stearns adds another big arm to that already pretty strong rotation. So who else do you think that the Mets could potentially go after in free agency pitching-wise?
Yeah, you mentioned strength, and I think that's important because when the Mets are healthy and when rounded out, their rotations have been pretty quality each and every season for the most part. And yes, we still have some glaring holes after losing Shamanai, after losing Luis Severino, and after losing Jose Quintana. But I do believe the Mets are destined to bring back at least one of those three starters, with Shamanaya looking more so of a reality than anyone else, just because Severino and Montas profile similarly to one another, especially with how they fared the previous season, entering their tenure now with the Mets. Whereas Manaea, a dominant, a formidable southpaw who really adjusted his arm angle brilliantly this past year, like Chris Sale, and is also really good friends and has a great relationship to Frankie Montas, as they were starters together during their time with the Oakland A's. So again, do I think that there's heavy bias that went into this decision for the Mets to sign Frankie? No. But does this only benefit their chances to bring back Sean Manaea, along with being a great clubhouse player that he is? Yes, I think it does. And then from there, outside of your in-house options that you're trying to bring back, say the Mets bring back Manaea out of those three, then you look at the Corbin Burns, the Max Frieds, the Walker Buehlers, what have you, still in the free agent market. Burns are going to push plenty for, but I think the Mets have a hard line in the sand on the term that they're willing to do for Burns and his services, who's looking for a 7-8 year deal, anywhere from $250 to $300+ million. Whereas Walker Buehler on the short-term front, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Mets as another type of reclamation project, but with a lot of upside after dominating the postseason play for the Dodgers. And similar to Severino, we can see really bounce back coming off of an injury-riddled year where he's coming off of Tommy John this past season. So plenty moves are still on the horizon for the Mets in their rotation, and we can expect more to be had, potentially even before Juan Soto makes his decision this offseason.
All right, let's talk about the offense. And like you said, we're getting closer to this Juan Soto decision. Let's say the Mets do miss out on Soto. Who do you think they go after for bats in free agency?
Well, as much as I hope that this isn't a reality that we have to talk about a week or so from now, my man, I will tell you this. There are a couple bats out there that make sense for the Mets, but not so much on a pivot aspect. Because, again, trying to pivot from Juan Soto, a generational hitter at the age of 26, when no one else is like that in the free agent market, you simply can't do that. Similar to Yamamoto in the free agent market a year ago for starting pitchers. But what you can do is still add oomph to this lineup immediately. And should the Mets have a route where they don't have to drastically overspend, more so on the term than I say the AAV, the big bats are still out there in Anthony Santander, Teoscar Hernandez, and the list goes on from there. And the trade market, the Mets can get very creative too. And honestly, if they don't land Soto, I have a feeling that they're going to dabble more in the trade market and surprise some people with the moves that they could find themselves having. Again, you can't replace trying to land Juan Soto, but you can try to fortify your lineup along with bringing back someone in Jesse Winker, who I think all Mets fans would love to see. A Pete Alonso reunion, things I think should happen even if they do sign Soto, but especially if they don't, I think they should run it back with some of their key pieces last season while adding externally what an Anthony Santander potentially, who can give you 40+ home runs in the corner outfield / DH position. Teoscar Hernandez, if you can prime away from the Dodgers, potentially on an overpay still, he's going to give you a guaranteed 25, 30+ home runs each and every season in the heart of this Mets lineup. There are avenues out there, but no one will top Juan Soto in his services, that's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that Soto shuffle out at Citi Field, man. Wardy, this was fun, man. Tell the people they can find you.
You guys can check out my work on YouTube at WardyNYM. Thank you guys so much who have in the past and who are going to. And my man Brandon, thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully, again, we talk soon on Juan Soto, inevitably landing in Queens. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Always a pleasure to chop it up with you, my man.
Same to you, my guy.